and Portsmouth have known such times. Those glorious years just after the Second World War, when Portsmouth won the league championship for 2 seasons running, 48-49 and 49-50. Peter Harris was one of the stars of that team, and to this day he remains the club's record goal scorer. Peter scored 194 league goals in a career that went from 1944 to 1959. He was born close to Fratton Park, and Portsmouth was his only club. His career collided with those legendary wingmen, Stanley Matthews and Tom Finney, so he made only 2 appearances for England. But Peter Harris, I can assure you, is still fondly remembered in these parts. Peter, it's great to be with you. 194 goals, a Portsmouth record still, and as a winger, which I think will surprise a lot of people.
Yeah, we were meant to be goal scorers in those days, because we were forward, I suppose. But also, towards the end of my time, we were expected to chase back and, you know, check the opposition if possible.
Yes. How did you come to sign here for the club?
I started my working life as a apprentice carpenter at the airspeed, and towards the end of the war they formed football teams, and I played for the local, my firm that I worked for. Yeah. And Harold Crawshaw, now that's a name you probably don't know, but he played here before the war, Harold Crawshaw, and he also worked in the same shop, as we call it, yes. In my day, the same shop at the airspeed. And he heard about me playing football, and he saw me play a couple of times. He said, would I like to come along and have a trial? So I said, well, why not? And I came along, and Jack Tin used to watch them in the evenings.
And he was the manager then?
He was the manager, yes, sorry, yeah. And that's how I came into it. He offered me, or Jimmy Stewart, who was the head trainer, as we called them in those days, not coach, but he wanted me to come along and have another trial later on, which I did, and I was asked to come along again and play a match with the reserve team, which I did, and from then on I went on to become a professional footballer, which I always wanted to do.
You could hardly have dreamt that you would play so many times here after that at Fratton Park, in front of full houses as well.
Yeah, oh, that's right.
Yes.
But I was slightly amazed. I think people have asked me before what was the thing that rattled you, if anything rattled you. It wasn't the crowd being there. It was the noise they made when I scored my first goal here at Fratton Park. I mean, a big roar went up. I never heard a roar like that from within, as it were. Really? I'd heard it from outside.
Yes.
And they scored another one, just sort of thing.
Yes.
But this time I was sort of in the middle of it all.
You were right in the centre.
And
of it
really, it gave me a bit of a shock.
Yes.
But 4,000, 40,000, 400,000, it doesn't make a great deal of difference when you're playing.
Can you remember the very first game you played for Portsmouth?
Yes, I can. That was at Watford. And they put me on the wing, as we called it in those days, played on the wing. And the chap behind me was Eric Guthrie, who I admired a great deal because he was the captain of the cup-winning side in 1939.
Right.
So he's my hero, one of my heroes. And of course Eric was quite volatile on the old. And he bucked me up and he pushed me along and he called me this and called me that. But at the end of the game he just said, well, don't worry too much what I say. He said, well, it's what you do that matters. And
yes.
So therefore it sort of negated that a little bit.
That wasn't bad advice either, was it?
No, it wasn't.
Really?
It wasn't really, no.
And of course, when you actually started your career, the Second World War was still going on. That must have been very strange.
Brought to attention, as it were, waiting for it to come. And it landed, a big boom, and so we knew what it was. And when that finished, everybody carried on with the game.
Carried on with the game.
And the people still stayed in the terraces. This is amazing.
Yes.
It really was.
Yes. So you played all your career as a very loyal Pompey man. Did you ever feel you wanted to play anywhere else, or did you ever get the opportunity?
No, I never did. I felt that, to be honest, I felt that being a local This may sound pompous again, but to be local and play for your city team or your, you know, was the be all and end all of everything, because players who come from on transfers are only interested in one thing, which is usually what these days, especially these days, it's money, isn't it? Yes. But in those days, you would have played for nothing.
Who were the real strong characters, the characters in that championship-winning Portsmouth side?
Well, I suppose you must say Jimmy Schooler was character, known as a hard man.
What about Jimmy Dickinson?
Jim was a quiet, they called him Gentleman Jim, didn't they? A very quiet sort of chap.
And what were his qualities on the field, do you think?
Leadership, I would say. He never played a bad game as far as we knew. He may have played well without telling us, but he said, well, at one time he came back from Huddersfield, as I remember, and he was most upset. He said he thought he'd had a terrible game, but to us it was just normal. But, you know, without pushing it too much. But
yes. And of course there was that great old centre forward of yours, Dougie Reid.
He had something that he kept hidden for a number of years.
What, on the field of play?
No, off the field of play.
Off
sorry.
the field of play.
And that was he was a great chef.
Really?
He loved to knock up some shortbread. It was proper shortbread, so Dougie told us. And he would never give anybody the recipe, because my Sylvia asked him several times if he no, he said, that's mine. And I'll keep that to myself. And he did too.
When you think of all the games you played, is there one side in particular where you always had a good battle against them?
Yes, I can. I can remember Wire Jackie.
Of Newcastle.
Jackie Milburn. I was just behind him. I was coming back to tackle him, actually. You might not believe this, but I did. But he was just near the halfway line, and he hit a left foot shot, and it went straight in the far corner. You talk about these chaps today, but he must have hit it just about perfectly. That was true.
When you played in those days and you won trophies, I mean, what were the rewards like? Of course, there was still a maximum wage then. You couldn't earn more than £20 a week, could you?
Yes, and 17 in the summer, or 15, or 13, or whatever they decided on, top of a hat, you know.
Yes, I think people would find that extraordinary that you got less in the summer than you got in the winter.
Yes, that was a retaining.
Yeah.
retaining.
Because I mean, it cost just as much to live in the summer as it did in the winter, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then you got a bonus for winning, did you?
Yeah, we got £2 bonus for winning and £1 for drawing. Nothing if you lost. Only an extra few laps on the Monday.
Yes.
When I say lap, I mean ran around the perimeter.
And did footballers at that time feel that was still a pretty good deal, a pretty good job?
Oh yes, it was. Yeah. I mean, I was delighted to leave my job as an apprentice, or when I served my time. Delighted to get out of the factory and into fresh air every day.
When you were a championship-winning player, how would your Saturdays have worked out? Say when you got a game at Fratton Park.
We have a get up. In point of fact, I should say that we looked after Len Phillips. I lived with Mum and Dad, you see, and we had a spare room. And Len Phillips' teammate, Waddy Diggs down here, he came from London, and we would just go for a stroll in the park, which was across the road from us.
Because Len played inside left.
Len played inside left, yes, and have a late breakfast, usually a late breakfast about 11 o'clock-ish, and then we walk down to Fratton Park, which is 10 minutes away from here, I suppose.
You walked to the ground?
Walked to the ground, yeah, but sometimes it was a little bit wet or something, we'd jump on a bus. And we always guaranteed a free ride on the bus.
Really? How did that come about?
Well, the conductor would
know who you were.
recognise you and say, "Okay, lads."
But I mean, people wouldn't understand today that players actually walked to the ground or caught a bus to the ground. This is, a leading players in a leading club in the First Division.
Well, that's the way it was. We were very much kept under, I suppose you could say, in those days, because everything was the same, weren't they?
So much then for championships, Peter. But next we're going to talk about your career as an England player, particularly an important match that was played in Budapest. That's in a moment.